Hello and welcome to Shought Thorts, the bite-sized interview show where I ask your favourite people in the gaming industry a bunch of somewhat silly questions. My name's DC Bradshaw, and my guest today is Yasmin, better known as YagmanX. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, nice to be here.
Okay, well, let's dive in then. Question one. For those that don't know you, could you please describe the creative thing or things you do, but only using words of one syllable?
Mm. Game, dev, songs. Right.
That works. That works. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the meanest question. Meanest question is over. If you were a pirate captain, what would be the name of your ship?
Yeah, this is so hard. Whenever I come up with names, I think of like meaning and like, what's the voyage for? How big is the ship? What does the ship look like? Oh my gosh, like I don't know. Could you give me some context, like off the top of your head? What is my adventure?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, you are now a pirate captain, so I guess that could be modern day you transported into a world of fantasy and swashbuckling. You are setting sail on your, I guess, sort of bardic adventures you might be doing on the high seas. What would be a good name to sell you to the people out there?
Oh, to sell me. Oh dear.
Or strike fear into the hearts of whomever, I guess. It depends which way you want to go with it.
I think honestly, like the only name I can think of, because the ship would become my friend, and also as like an example of what I probably wouldn't want to do on my adventures, is to name it Menali, which is the name of the protagonist from Dragon Song series. But it's just because of who she is in the book, where she wants to be a bard type.
Mhm.
But she's a woman, so she's always held back, and she's like she lives by the sea, and like I don't know, like whenever I play games now and I need to name something, I just name it Meneli because I really like her and I think that's a really cool name. But that would mean nothing to anyone else but me, but I guess that's fine.
It's absolutely fine. I think you name it for what you want it to be. It doesn't matter if they get the reference or not. It means something to you. What's your favorite mindless fun popcorn movie?
This is also a really tough question because I like I like to watch things for the meaning of it.
Mhm.
In general, I'm terrible at mindless fun. Like my mind doesn't switch off. So I'm just like,
Yeah, I know that one.
yeah, so I need like a meaning to do like anything. And like, so I like horror films because I want to be scared and entranced.
Let me rephrase that slightly then. So, maybe not mindless fun then, but something that use a kind of a comfort film for you that you could put on in the background. You've maybe seen it quite a few times, and maybe it doesn't matter if you're not completely watching it, but you could
Gotcha.
dip in and out of it.
Okay.
A cozy film.
Cozy film. Okay, so probably Gully then. But I love Gully.
Ah,
Like beautiful meaning, the animation. I know it's a bit dated, but I still think it's gorgeous. There's some parts that make me laugh, and the songs as well are really fun. So yeah, I like Gully.
okay, question four. If you could have a miniature version of a mythological or fantasy creature as a pet, what would it be?
So many mythological creatures are scary by nature because a lot of them are made myths, right? Because they're like,
Hmm.
don't go too close to the water's edge, or the kelpie's gonna come and drag you in. So I think the best one that I can think of right now would probably just be like a brownie, but then they're already tiny, so they can just stay their normal size because they help you around the house, and that'd be amazing to have like a little creature to like help you with the housework. But you have to remember to feed them, right? Because then they turn into pixies or something. They turn into something not so good that cause mischief around the house. So as long as you're treating them nicely, it can be like basically another lodger that you're just like friends with that helps you clean up. Now it just sounds like slavery now that I talk about it. So I'm like, oh, that a good answer?
No, everything is fine. It is consensual. This,
Yeah.
God, now I don't even want to say ownership.
No.
This relationship is totally cool. Everyone's fine with it.
Yeah, as long as the brownie is consenting and like I treat them with respect, then yeah, a brownie would be amazing. I'd love that.
Question five. What's your favorite swear word or phrase that's not actually swearing?
Balls. Just balls.
It's on the
Yeah, I
cusp of
love saying
actually
that.
swearing, I guess.
Balls. Yeah, and then kids will be like, balls? I'm like, footballs, tennis balls. Just balls.
You can pivot that one, which is good. hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I've never tried it around kids, but
Well, yeah, report back and let me know how it goes.
we will see. Yes.
Might be fun. If you had to sing a Disney song at karaoke, what would you choose?
Yeah, that it's more like what wouldn't I choose? I love singing Disney songs. There's so many, but I think Frozen has the best ones, to be honest. Like I love singing Love is an Open Door. That is top tier. I always want to sing it as a duet, and I don't really have many people who like friends around me who like to sing, so they're always like, and then I'm like, ah! It's just I can basically do both on my own. But that one and Into the Unknown, I love that song as well. So yeah, they're good for like actually singing, but then if you just want to have fun with your friends, I think Make a Man Out of You by like in Mulan. That's like the song that everyone just goes, oh, let's get down to biz. Yeah. Yeah.
There's definitely some ones out there where it's like, this is really good as a performance, if you are wanting to sing it well, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of good Disney songs out there where it's like, well, this is just fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Mulan one. As soon as I put that on, everyone in the room is just like, ah.
Question 7. If you could have a magical item to make your day-to-day life just a little bit easier, what would it be?
I mean, this is probably gonna sound so boring, but just a button to switch off my brain. That would be so nice. Like switch it on and off.
Hmm.
Just whenever when I go to bed or I want to actually chill out and watch a mindless fun movie,
Yeah.
just ping, just turn that off and then just I don't have these like racing thoughts all the time.
Hmm.
So yeah, probably a button to turn it on and off.
Yeah, I can see that being good. And maybe with some sort of like timer incantation on it. So it's like, right, sleep now, wake me up now. And
Yeah, like an alarm.
peace between those hours. Yes, would be good.
Exactly. Like you know how your phone has a do not disturb mode. Like I could just do that with my brain. Like I know everyone struggles with this, but when you stop work, but then your brain's still thinking about it, and you're like, I need to relax now. Stop it.
The second you realize I need to relax it, that's not going to happen. It's like I know I have to get up in like 5 hours because I've got a flight or something, so I must sleep.
Yes.
That guarantees you are not going to sleep.
And you keep counting down. Like I've got 5 hours, so if I fall asleep in 1 hour, that means I'm going to get 4 hours sleep, and then I've got to make sure that I don't miss the alarm. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's too much. Just the button. Perfect. Done.
Yes, magic button, like it. We've already slightly touched on this subject already, but what's a book that you think everyone should read?
I think the books that probably I would like tell other people to read, if they're interested in it, is more like encyclopedia of like things that never were. So creatures, lands, like this kind of stuff. Anything that can kind of spark your imagination. And I was like looking for the perfect one for years. Because I had this little one. I'm going to show you two. So I had this little one when I was a kid. It's the Spiderwick Chronicles. So it's just a book about like seeing stones and lots of fantasy stuff, and
Oh, it's pretty.
it has little drawings. But this kind of really sparked my imagination as a kid and got me really into fantasy and mythological things.
Yeah.
And then since I've been older, I was looking for a book like that, but more comprehensive. And this is like the best book I have ever found. It's called The Encyclopedia of Things That Never Were. And the like art in it is amazing. Just like it has like full page spreads of like big artworks like these.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's in sections, so it's like gods and things of the cosmos and space, and then it'll have like places that didn't exist but are still believed to exist. Then it'll have like, obviously dragons, or things of the earth and things of the sky, and it kind of like sections it all like that, and then like things of darkness and scary things. So yeah, this is like the best book. It's quite expensive, but hands down.
That's brilliant. I love that. It scratches the itch in a slightly more healthy way, like kind of Wikipedia scrolling. When you go on a journey through Wikipedia of, oh, this is a topic I don't know about, which has led to another topic I don't know about. But confining it and making it a lot cozier in a book form is wonderful.
With little like diagrams and drawings. And I like the way they write about it as well, because they kind of write scientific, but they also fall into the fantasy realm of like, Oh, unfortunately, dragons have died away because people used to bathe in their blood to make them unable to be harmed in battle. So it kind of writes about it as if it were true, and I love that. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
yes, give it to me.
I've always wondered, I don't think I would ever do it. You know, if you go into the Natural History Museum and you see, these are the bones of a dinosaur, this is what a dodo looked like and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If it was like, this is what a centaur looked like, that would be brilliant if they could, treat fantasy things as if they were real. Clearly they'd have to signpost. None of this is actually real, but I like it when they treat it with the realism of, let's assume for a second it was true. How could it have worked?
I'd argue like don't even signpost that it's not real because I like still being like we don't know everything.
Hmm.
Who's to say that there wasn't some sort of
Yeah.
dragon? I mean, especially in England. And anyway, I could talk about this for ages, but I also feel like because now we don't have any belief in that stuff, we neglect nature a lot more because we're not as intrigued or scared by it,
Yeah.
whichever one you want to say, and we don't respect it as much as we used to before.
Okay, staying on a note of creativity, what's the creative thing you've made or done that you're most proud of?
I think honestly, it's probably the indie game that I made with two of my friends from university. It was our university project. It was called Perfection, and it's still like to this day the thing I'm most proud of most because I used all my insecurities and turned it into a game
Mm.
about not being perfect and not living up to expectations and all these things. And then I didn't expect anyone to play it, but it was played by Markiplier and Jacksepticeye and a lot of other people who found the game on
Wow.
itch. Yeah, it was so cool. And it started a conversation about the word perfect and what it means and how we'll never reach it and how that's okay. And I was just like, oh my gosh, because that's exactly the thought process I wanted people to have when playing it. And that was just really fulfilling to see that I'd managed to do that and give people an experience where they can go away and then talk about it or reflect on it in like a positive way. So yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, there's definitely something in the creating anything. There's almost kind of three pillars to it. There's the I want the person who consumes this, whether they read it or play it or listen to it, to enjoy
Mm.
it. That's kind of a minimum standard. But if you can inject something of yourself into it, that's awesome as well. And if they can then feed off of that and take something out of it as well, that's an absolute win.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like I would just love anyone to who comes across my stuff to come away and reflect and have a positive
Mm.
influence, even if it's just like a tiny little thought.
There will be a link to that in the description so other people can go out and enjoy it.
Thank you.
Question 10. Last of all, could you please tell us your favorite inoffensive, groan-worthy dad joke?
The only one that's like coming to mind because my dad used to say it, and it really is groan worthy, is when someone goes something like, I'm hungry, and then they respond with, nice to meet you, hungry, I'm dad. And it's just like, it's the most infuriating thing.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I'm telling you I want food. No, it's not the time for jokes. But yeah, that's the one that comes to my mind.
It's an absolute classic, and it does fall into that category of you sometimes walk into jokes like that. You feel it hanging. It's like, oh no, oh no. Yeah, we've been around the block on this so many times, and yet here we go again.
Yeah.
I have the same thing with my dad, especially if I've not seen him for a while. He'll say something which is something of a slight non sequitur, and I'm like, oh no, this is a bad joke, is it? This is you're reeling me into this, aren't you? Brace yourself. Here we go.
And you don't want to laugh, but you do every time. You're like, why?
And that's it. So thank you so much for your time. If folks have enjoyed these insights into the brain of YagmanX, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, thank you. They can find me on my YouTube channel, on Twitch. I share often a lot of thoughts on Twitter, and I do have a Discord as well. Those are my main places.
Marvelous. Well, I would strongly recommend that people check you out there. And thank you out there for watching and or listening to this. I'm DC Bradshaw, and this has been Short Thoughts with YagmanX. Hope you have an amazing day. Take care.
Bye.